Hello and welcome to this SPK and Associates vlog. My name is Michael Roberts. I'm Vice President of Sales and Marketing here at SPK and Associates. And artificial intelligence is quickly becoming embedded in all tools, engineering tools specifically, and even in the ones for IT and other departments. And it's part of their everyday use, from developing platforms like GitLab, to collaboration environments like Atlassian and Microsoft. But as organizations rush to adopt AI capabilities like Copilot or Rovo or GitLab Duo, many are discovering that governance, security, and data protection need to be keeping up pace with innovation. Without the right oversight, these tools can increase and induce risk around intellectual property, compliance, and a lot of unintended data exposure. So in today's vlog, I'm joined by Mike Solinap. Mike, thanks for joining me today. Please introduce yourself.
Thanks, Michael. Mike Solinap. I'm director of our cloud infrastructure practice. Been with the company for many years now, and happy to talk AI tooling and governance.
So we're here to talk about how smart companies are establishing these AI governance boards to responsibly evaluate and approve AI tools across their technology ecosystems, not just engineering and IT, but we're going to talk about most of those areas today. So Mike works with organizations every day on cloud infrastructure, security, and infrastructure strategy. So Mike will bring a lot of practical perspective to how companies are safely adopting AI without slowing down innovation. We don't want to slow things down. So, Mike, when organizations are evaluating AI tools like Copilot or Rovo or GitLab Duo, what are the biggest security and data governance risks that they overlook, and how should an AI governance board assess those in the process of onboarding those AI tools?
Sure. So when companies begin evaluating AI tools, they usually focus on things like model accuracy or productivity gains, or they simply look at compliance statements made by the tool. But it's really important to focus on things that you mentioned, which are security and data governance. So top things that companies overlook in terms of security and data governance are, in my mind, number one, data oversharing. So AI tools, as you mentioned, are intended to reach into like many systems and aggregate all that data. So you'll typically have things like knowledge bases, emails, you'll have files, maybe even chats. And users might technically have access to that data already, but they might not discover it manually, or it might be rare for them to be able to discover that information. And so, if your permissions are poorly configured, when you aggregate that data, you could be exposing your AI tools, and you could bring to light sensitive documents they might otherwise never see. So that's one risk. Number two is prompt injection, and that's typically coupled with data exfiltration. So consider the following example. Let's say that a malicious user who has access to a system, they get a document and they upload it into one of the file systems. And that document instructs the AI to, one, search internal systems, summarize some sensitive info, and then send it out to an external party or email it. So that's another risk. Number three, unmanaged AI usage. And so I've got a couple of interesting stats here. So according to TechRadar, up to 78% of workers introduce their own AI tools without any oversight, and I'm sure many of you are guilty of doing that. And so additionally, those employees frequently paste sensitive data into public AI tools. We're talking about code snippets, we're talking about product design docs, maybe even some sensitive photos. And Gartner predicts that 40% of enterprises will have unmanaged AI tool breaches by the year 2030. So that's a big risk. And then finally, there's this topic around increased tool security risks. So what I mean by that is, when you implement an AI tool, you're also extending your system, meaning that you've got some new additional plugins, you might have some integrations, you have some MCP servers, and so your typical layered approach to security, it's gonna need to extend into those new pieces of infrastructure, and that often gets overlooked.
That really concerns me because now I think of a scenario I heard last night of where sensitive pricing, internal pricing information that isn't public was put in ChatGPT, and now, that model now knows what that company's pricing model is, right? So like that's a huge risk. So from like a security and compliance perspective, what criteria should these AI governance boards include in its approval process to ensure that, these tools don't introduce, sensitive pricing or IP leakage or model poisoning or regulatory exposure? What do they need to do there?
Yep. So there's some core criteria that an AI governance board needs to evaluate. Biggest thing is number one, data classification and access. So as a board, you need to determine exactly what data the AI tool can access and how it's classified. And what I mean by that is what data sources does the AI ingest? Is it product software code? Is it hardware design files? Or is it just something like HR documents, right? And also, we need to ask the question, is that data part of a regulated data set? Because that's a really big consideration depending on what industry you're in. Number two, training model and data usage. So boards need to ensure that company data isn't being used to train or improve external models. You know, the example you gave was a great one. Could be give away their competitive advantage. So they need to be asking questions around, hey, are all the prompts being logged, and are those prompts also being used as part of the model training? Where are your vector databases being stored? And then overall, what are the data retention limits? Because that could be a big consideration. And then earlier, number three, we talked about prompt injection. So as a board, you need to verify that the prompts are being isolated, that they're being sanitized. And then we also need to ensure that content has the ability to be filtered if necessary as part of that governance model. Finally, number four, and I think this is a very important one, is the identity and privilege model. So what I mean by that is, does the tool support, for example, scope service accounts where you can operate with the least amount of privilege? Um, in terms of APIs, does it use short-lived tokens that get rotated frequently? And then from kind of a networking perspective, does it enforce a zero trust environment?
I hate that this is like a hyper complex process, laying on top of uh, the use of now innovation. But I feel like the outcomes that you talked about earlier are so potentially threatening to companies that they really have to have some level of approval process around these tools and where the data can go and what outcomes could happen related to that data. So really good info there. So now, Mike, we work with a lot of, product teams that use a lot of different tooling, some in the physical product realm, PLM, CAD systems, and some of the software realm. So how do you see AI features in those tools like Rovo agents or GitLab Duo or Azure Copilot fitting into existing product tools like PLM and CAD tools and even DevSecOps pipelines? How do you see those features fitting into those systems? And then what role should an AI governance board play in deciding where and how these tools integrate if they need to?
Sure. So in my experience in supporting engineering and CAD tools and ALM PLM tools for many years now, what we've found is that a lot of those tools are very, very difficult to use. They're not very user friendly. They differ from one another. So, for example, there's a lot of situations where companies will switch from one tool to another to provide the same functionality. There's some relearning involved, not only from the user's perspective, but also from an administrative perspective. So where I see these AI features coming into place is in allowing things like natural language to interface with these very complex tools. And an example of requirements management, for example, being able to simply say, hey, get me the requirement for this particular product, or create me a new requirement in the system based off of these specifications, for example. So in terms of an AI governance board and what role they should be playing, uh, where and how these tools integrate, um, a concept that our team likes to use is treating the AI tool like an intern, where they have some knowledge about the tool and the process, but they don't necessarily have the full experience, and you may not necessarily want to fully trust them. So um, what we could do is actually have a concept of a staging area where the AI tool could write data into your application, but there would be some checks and balances and some review that would be done by an actual human before that data actually makes its way to production.
Yeah, I like the intern comparison. We've all worked with interns. They're awesome, but at the same time, they may not know everything. They may not have all the context, but they do a lot of the heavy lifting, right? So yeah, why not treat it like that? Mike, thank you so much for sharing your insights and how organizations should think about AI governance. I really appreciate your time.
No problem.
So as more AI capabilities become embedded into different tools like Rovo and GitLab Duo and Copilot and all these others, it's really clear that companies need a structured approach for evaluating risk, protecting intellectual property, and ensuring that these technologies actually improve productivity rather than introduce new challenges that you didn't anticipate. So for organizations looking to adopt AI responsibly, establishing an AI governance board is a really critical step in terms of aligning innovation with security, compliance, and long-term business value. If your organization is exploring how AI can operate within your engineering, DevOps, or product development environment and wants to ensure you got the right guidance to be able to evaluate and get these tools implemented safely, our team at SPK and Associates would be happy to help. We have a new product called the AI Launchpad, which talks about all of this stuff, including AI governance boards and building better products with AI. So thanks for watching this. If you found this discussion helpful, be sure to follow the SPK and Associates YouTube channel for more insights on AI, DevSecOps, cloud infrastructure, and modern engineering tools. We'll see you in the next vlog. Thanks.